Doug Mazeski.
Okay, I was a little surprised with all the cool stories that Dee told last week.
I know, that was a very entertaining episode. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, boy, he came from Liberia and not only fled a civil war with his family, which is an amazing story of God providing, but also, Liberia as a country, they had Ebola outbreaks and just all sorts of problems, and he's gone back and forth from the United States to Liberia several times with several projects, so I'm excited to hear more stories tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this episode.
Yeah, please welcome back Dee Walker. Welcome to another episode of The Third Chair. I'm Peter, that's Doug, and we are here with Dee Walker.
Thank you.
Dr. Dee Walker.
And you're going to talk to him how he became a doctor.
We're going to talk to him how he became a doctor. And he did a PhD, and I believe that was in the United States.
Yes,
is that correct?
yes, it
Tell us about, because you spent some time growing up in Liberia, and you went back and forth, like you told me, 15 times, and you eventually did a PhD in Illinois. Is that right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What do you study? What was your thesis all about?
I was opportuned to be a student, a doctoral student at Trinity International University. It's an evangelical Christian university, and up in Deerfield, Illinois. And I was privileged to be amongst what we call the United Nations. There was international students from all over.
Wow.
Yes, literally all over the world. I have colleagues in my class. I was in the School of Education. So I did a PhD in what was then called Educational Studies. And it was a 4-5 years program, but because I was a full-time student, I did it in 3.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you have your family with you then?
Yes. My family was here with me. And that's one of the things, because I was almost always in the library. So
in the library.
Yeah, so when I realized that my kids were missing me, my wife was missing me, I started bringing books home, and then I had access to the library remotely.
Oh.
So I could check out an ebook or something, and so we just in a so I had my little corner,
Nice.
But the kids, they were small. Well, that is their dad doing PhD, they didn't care. They wanted the father's attention.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
So I just did a schedule in such a way that I had time for them. I started teaching our younger son soccer, and then I became a soccer coach in the area, in the community. So I did my PhD at Trinity International University. I got there 2001 August and graduated May 2005.
Now, you had told me that you had done your master's degree
in
Nairobi, and that part of the thesis in master's was
about the youth and reconciliation.
Reconciliation, and I'm assuming that's reconciliation like in a place where there's been disaster or war.
Especially civil war.
Civil war, and that was the primary focus in Liberia. What about your PhD?
My PhD, because I'm a leader in the church, I was trying to find out what could the role of the church be in ensuring that reconciliation was, my theme in my master's and my PhD was all about reconciliation. In my master's, it was about the youth. In my PhD, it was about the role of the Christian church in reconciliation.
Of the same idea of civil war.
Yeah.
And you... what were some of the conclusions that you came to? Did you find certain kinds of churches that were more helpful in this regard? Obviously there's teachings like Jesus saying, like forgive your brother and things like that, which might be kind of hard to do if someone's murdered your family. And so that really is the rubber hitting the road. So what were some of your findings?
Well,
or your thoughts on that?
Yes, one of my findings was that even though folks were Christians, it was almost natural for them to gravitate towards their tribes. They could be the Christians in the same church, but when it came to supporting a particular group, they would prefer to support their own tribes than their Christian brothers and sisters.
Wow, was this a surprise to you?
Yes, I was surprised. I just thought that Christianity was would overshadow, would overshadow, would undergird, their relationship with others. But their tribal affiliations were stronger.
We see a little bit of that in the United States in the sense of Christians, but I'm a Democrat, I'm an independent, I'm a Republican. Not exactly the same tribal idea, but where some other things can overshadow
The church.
Christian belief in the church.
Yes. And another thing I found out was that self-forgiveness.
Self-forgiveness.
It was hard for people to forgive themselves. So as a result, they projected that unforgiveness onto others because they didn't know how to forgive themselves.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to forgive themselves for things that they've done, so they will project that against other people.
Well, I think it's easier to believe that God has forgiven you rather than forgiving yourself.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I think so.
And I don't know. I've heard some pretty amazing sort of explanations of that, including everything from like, well, it's really kind of prideful not to forgive yourself if God's forgiven you, and I can see that argument. But also, if you've done horrible things, I can really see you kind of being messed up and having a hard time forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
How do you forgive yourself if you killed somebody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
again, that's where your relationship with God comes in, because you need to understand, believe, grasp, internalize, and live out the word. Yeah.
We had interviewed another guest who was who had done some research also in a PhD program, looking at what kinds of places, what kinds of churches resulted in couples if there had been infidelity. Like not divorcing, of like fixing it and carrying on in a good way. And it wasn't every church. It was churches that really preached like forgiveness and reconciliation as a key part of their culture of the church.
Yeah.
People that went there were able to do it. But if the underlying foundation wasn't there, it didn't occur.
No, yeah. Again, you mentioned something that is very paramount, pivotal in our culture. I'm not talking about traditional culture, organizational culture. So how do you develop that culture? It is based upon what you prioritize as a theme, or as a belief of value system.
Yes.
So like you talk certain churches, they believe in forgiveness, so they would espouse, they would preach, they would teach, and expect that people will live that, and they will welcome people, who've done some atrocious stuff, and say, you know what, God offered us forgiveness, we'll offer you forgiveness, let's reconcile.
It's pretty crazy to think, the Apostle Paul, look at all the stuff he did. Killed people, separated families, kidnapped, conspiracy to commit murder.
He didn't even try to hide it.
He didn't even try to hide it, and yet he wouldn't be allowed to speak in most churches.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, you don't pass the background check.
Yeah.
But God changed me, he blinded me,
Yes.
No.
We'll become very judgmental.
Yeah.
And unaccepting. Of people.
Accepting, I think, is a lot. It's like, forgive me, or or they didn't know they made a mistake, and it's like, no, you're a non-person now.
Well, and the other thing too is that we spend too much time texting on our phone, and not enough time, in my opinion, like sitting down for a meal, with family and friends and people we don't know, and maybe people that are really, really, really different than us.
Yeah. Well, it takes resolve, personal resolve, collective resolve, to appreciate, embrace, and appreciate, and just affirm those who are different from you.
Yes.
And I'm just excited that those things don't bother me. You're different. I think we should celebrate difference. or differences.
You know, and what I've even found sometimes is like, wow, they might even have something to teach me.
Yes.
Oh man, I thought I knew everything, man.
The older you get, the more you learn you don't know.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
I mean, it's like,
The-
wow, you know.
Well, I thought I knew it all, and it's like, man, I feel
Yeah,
like I've just got so much to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk about that when we come back from our break. We're going to talk about some of the jobs you've worked. I know you've been in academics, you've been at universities. We're going to talk about that, and you give a chance to convince the youth that they ought to think about working at a university as well when we come right back.
Okay.
Welcome back to the third chair. I'm Peter. That is Doug. And we are with our special guest, Dr. D. Walker, Dynamite D, from his broadcasting days. Oh, man. So, when we left off this one, I know academics are important to you. I know you've done a bachelor's, a master's, a PhD. You've worked at universities. And so, I guess my question is, tell us about some of the universities you worked at, and like what kinds of jobs did you do?
Okay, thank you. I've just been so privileged. It's not that I'm smarter than some of my colleagues, but even at the African Bible College University, where I did my bachelor's, in my final year, I became a professor assistant, and then I was employed upon graduation to be a teacher assistant with the aim or the plan. The strategy was that because it was a school run by missionaries.
Yeah.
So they wanted to train nationals that would eventually take over. So they had sent one of the nationals to a school in down south, and he came back with his master's and he was teaching. I was supposed to be the next, and then the Civil War broke out.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But in God's plan, everything worked well. So, so I taught at the school as a teacher assistant, the African Bible College, and then the war broke out. We were homeless, trying to find ways to survive, and I got an opportunity to go do my master's. When I did my master's, I came back to Liberia, and I was a lecturer and academic dean at the Liberia Baptist Theological Seminary.
So what subject did you lecture on?
Education.
So you talked about like the theory of education?
Yes, educational administration, education, teaching, principles of teaching and learning.
Okay.
Those kinds of courses. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, very good.
Yeah.
And then you were an academic dean?
Yeah, academic
Like
dean.
what? I've heard the term academic dean. I got a few degrees. What does an academic dean do?
The academic dean provides leadership for anything academic. The lecturers or the faculty, and ensure that the right courses were being done. The scheduling, you oversee. You don't do it, but you oversee the scheduling of the courses. And provide counseling services academic counseling services for students, and provide opportunities for faculty development.
So would the academic dean then also, like, if someone said, "Hey, I think we need to have a psychology 101 class that we don't have," would that go to the academic dean?
Yes.
To decide either to do it or not to do it, and then how?
And because one of the things we've done, I did in the past, was to ensure that we got the faculty with the requisite credentials to teach the courses. And that was one. Two, if the registrar says, we only have 3 students registered for this course, we always, in terms of breaking even, and administrative cost and stuff. If we don't have 5 students and above, we don't offer a class.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Yes.
I think that still goes on today.
Yes, exactly.
Most universities,
Yeah.
to a certain extent.
Yeah.
For sure. Now, were you ever involved at any of the universities where you had to like discipline students
Yeah, for me, for academic fraud.
for academic fraud? So, like
Yeah.
copying,
Plagiarism,
Yeah.
plagiarism.
Is that
and
the
stuff.
big thing?
Yes, plagiarism is the big thing, and so we did a lot of seminars for faculty in trying to help them teach students on how to be independent researchers, you know,
Yes.
and how to provide the right citations,
Yes,
so that
yes.
you don't copy someone's stuff and say it's yours. You know,
Right,
make it
yes.
or make it sound like it's yours. You
Right,
know,
yeah.
so we got different methodologies, and the American Psychological Association, the APA format, you know, the Turabian format. You know, how do you do all of that?
Chicago
yeah,
citation method
based,
too.
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What a pain in the butt!
Yeah.
At least three different
Exactly.
ways of.
But
Yeah.
most liberal arts colleges or universities are using now the APA, which is the American Psychological Association
Yeah,
format.
sure.
You know.
Yeah, and you know, for people that are not trying to cheat, you know, it does get tricky. You know, a certain amount of quotes has to be a block quote, or otherwise in quotations in another certain way. You know,
Yeah.
but of course nowadays there's all these plagiarism checkers.
Checkers,
Yeah,
yes,
that
checkers,
the,
yes,
that the
yes.
professors have. They just run that paper
Yeah.
through them
Yeah.
that software.
Tell you,
Yeah.
whoa, 70%
Whoa,
of the work is there.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, before we were exposed to all of these software, I wrote a little booklet on how to do research and provide do citations. You know, so that was distributed amongst all of the faculty and the students, so they know what to do. How do you cite a journal, a newspaper, a textbook, a book with one author, a book with 2 or more authors, and all of those stuff.
You know, and now they've added websites to that list and
Yeah.
all these
Yes,
other
exactly.
things too.
Yeah, online and stuff like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Well, of course, you know, the other thing is that now, you know, there's all these services where people can like buy a paper. You know, they can buy a thesis.
I've seen that.
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah,
that.
you can buy a PhD doctoral thesis, you know, like
Yeah.
for $39.
So, but
Yeah,
the question
I just got mine in the mail. No,
Well, no wonder you graduated.
yeah, that's
After
right.
25
yeah, top
years.
of my class. Yeah.
it's quite interesting you say that, because when I was going to defend my dissertation at Trinity International University, 2 days earlier, I received an email that, in essence, just says, you know what, you can get your PhD in 3 days. Just send this. I said, I've been working here for almost 4 years. I'm going to do my dissertation defense, and now I'm getting this. You should have sent this before I came here.
Yeah,
But anyway,
yeah,
the question,
yeah.
the question, I say, think something about value. So who are you fooling? Who are you misleading? You
Well,
know,
yourself mainly.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yourself.
yeah,
Yourself.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you think like, well, if I cheated and then 20 years later, I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
well, I didn't do
Yeah.
that work.
So were you a tough lecturer in terms of grading?
Yes. Oh no. It comes to when I'm interacting with my students, I mean, you will think this guy is easy. When it comes to grading, because usually they have the rubrics,
Yeah.
or stuff. So when it comes to grading, I was tough.
Oh, man,
Yeah,
I believe it.
when I was doing my PhD, my 3rd year, I got my first teaching assignment at DePaul University
Oh wow.
in Chicago. Yeah, DePaul University in Chicago. Yeah, so I taught in the School of Education. They heard that this librarian was here. I fled the Civil War. They had some newspaper articles on me. So the dean there called my university, and they said, yeah, we have this guy here. So I went for an interview, and they employed me. So I started teaching part-time at DePaul University at the master's level. You know?
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite an experience.
Oh sure.
But some of the students started making comments, positive comments, and the chair of the department heard it, and she said, we want to offer you full-time.
Nice.
Yeah, but I mean, I was so crazy about going back to Liberia, I said no.
Oh, wow. Wow. Fantastic.
So I taught at DePaul University, Trinity Christian College, here in Colorado at Regis University, Colorado Christian University, I've taught.
So
So
being
Regis up in Denver?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. So did you live in Denver for a
No,
while?
I did online. I did
Oh,
taught
okay.
it online.
what would you say you found was like the biggest joy from being a lecturer or teaching at the university? What was the most meaningful part of that for you?
For me, it was to see transformation of the students' way of thinking, way of writing, way of talking. Just that transformation. They came, they were so raw, and then they thought they knew it all. But then when you help them give comments and stuff on their papers, and you saw a progressive increase in their ability to write something very, very valuable. For me, that was the most.
I mean, one of the things I've always believed is that, and we'll have you comment on this when we come back, that you should leave university being able to critically think, critically write, and critically speak.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that. That's right.
Yeah.
When we come
Yes.
right back.
Yeah, thank you.
One.
Doug, most of our viewers and followers know that our new episodes come out on YouTube on Thursday nights.
Right.
But we have a new announcement about the third chair.
Exciting announcement.
Starting with the older episodes, they're now going to be on a TV channel.
Yes, very exciting.
So the TV channel is with the Pikes Peak Library District, Comcast Channel 17 here in Colorado Springs. And I believe the episodes are going to play at 7 o'clock at night, but they may cycle them, and who knows, maybe they'll be on at 2 or 3 in the morning. So if you're in Colorado Springs and you have Comcast and access to Channel 17, you're able to watch The Third Chair. The episodes are edited a little bit shorter. Some of the commercials are taken out on TV.
It should be exciting.
Yeah, I can finally tell my friends I'm really on TV.
We could tell them we're TV stars.
That's right.
Yeah.
Welcome to The Third Chair. I'm Peter. He is still Doug. And we have our special guest, D. Walker, Dynamite D from his broadcasting days. We're so excited to be talking with him.
You know, one thing we should tell our audience is we're all very serious during the breaks.
No, we pretty much decided that I'm probably the only one that would eat fish.
I love
You eat fish.
Oh,
You
I
eat
love
fish.
fish.
Yeah, it's your wife that doesn't.
Hey, don't leave me out of the fish department. I need a little too.
He'll eat fish. He likes a good salmon.
Mm.
Yeah, I made it. Was it last Christmas I made that salmon?
I think it was.
Yeah, it was good. I was surprised. Boy, everyone went to the salmon before the ham, but that's for another episode. So you've taught at the university. Academics is important, and so it's generated a couple questions in my mind. One is, I feel like a person shouldn't leave university without being able to critically think, critically speak, critically write. And the second thing is, I'm sort of amazed, and maybe I was this way at 18, at these 18-year-old kind of activists that seem or portray like they know it all already at 18. You know, maybe I was the same way at 18. I don't know.
Yeah, but I had a lot of that in the 18 because we didn't know how the real world.
Yeah. Well, it just
you know.
seems, maybe we see it more because of social media, but...
Well, yeah. It's a good point that you brought up, Peter. Education has morphed in terms of the process, in terms of methodologies and stuff. I know when I was growing up, you would be considered educated if you can regurgitate what you learned in
Yes.
school.
Yes.
So in other words, a high level of memorization was celebrated as learning.
Sure.
And so folks, I knew one of I would memorize history notes, and stuff like that. In the mid-15th centuries, the inland people called the Manis invaded the coast. They were known to be ferocious fighters and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I remember once in high school, I took an exam and I gave the professor back his notes. Now remember, I was in the drama group, so I was known for memorizing scripts.
Sure.
You know?
have to. Yeah.
Yeah. So I memorized this guy's notes. I gave it to him. He said, "No, this is impossible." So he thought I cheated. So he invited me into the teacher's lounge. He said, "Do it again." And I did it. But you know what? 3 weeks later, I could not remember anything I did.
Yes. Yes.
So the value of critical thinking. So when I am teaching and I'm helping them, because I was taught later, especially in my PhD, to become a critical thinker. You don't just read a textbook, and when you're writing a paper, you said, "Oh, Peter, according to dog states," and that kind of stuff. So what?
Yeah.
Any Tom, Dick, and Harry can say, "According to Peter," or "According to this site."
Right.
You should be able to take Doc's thoughts, Peter's thoughts, and what you are thinking about those thoughts, synthesize them, and come up with some conclusion. That's
Yeah.
critical thinking.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
So I
Which is harder work.
it is.
It's much easier to memorize than to critically think.
You're right. You're right. So if you do that, when you come out, when you guys are doing a project, you don't just accept whatever either your leader says or your teammate says. You challenge assumptions. You challenge opinions. And there was a time when some of my profs felt that I was very obnoxious and stuff like that. Because I was in class and a professor is telling me the African, and I said, "Prof, with all due respect, when you say Africa, you group up, you generalize, and it doesn't go down well with us because East Africa is completely different from West Africa, So if you've been to Kenya for all of your missionary trips, and all of your examples you're using for Kenya, you're using them as generalizations for all of Africa, you are missing out a lot, bro."
That's a really great point because I know in terms of Christian churches and donation to ministries, a massive high percent of it goes to Kenya. And so that is kind of the stereotype
Yes.
of what Africa's all about is Kenya. And of course it's not the same as Uganda or Rwanda or Ghana.
No.
or,
So that question you ask, you should be for me, someone who's educated is someone who can critically analyze, critically synthesize, and fuse ideas together and come up with their own conclusions or support conclusions based upon
Sure.
other research that they have done with critical engagement.
Yeah, sure. That's
You don't just
absolutely-
accept anything someone says,
That Arl said, "I don't want the book answer."
Yes, exactly. And so, because we were taught anything the book says, so we're reading newspapers. So if we read news articles and we say, "Oh, this is true." Well, if you really analyze, and in fact, I used that when I was teaching English composition. I gave several newspapers to my students. I said, "Read this paper and criticize it. Do a critical analysis." And I said, "But we can't do that. It is the news." I said, "You will fail this course if you do not." And then I started teaching them how to critically analyze.
Sure.
And then they started realizing, whoa, so you do grammatical analysis and you realize that the choice of words, the phraseology, the way they phrase this word, syntax and all kind of, whoa, there's a lot of stuff that I'm missing here. And then the content.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
The
content.
Sure. But I'm also thinking it seems, maybe it's always been the case, but it seems like it's more prevalent now. I mean, I had 4 kids go to university, but just the idea of people telling students this is the only acceptable narrative about an issue. Would that be you don't agree with that?
No.
No.
But I see that.
Yeah.
And it's like, and if you're going to disagree with me in my class, I'm going to kick you out.
Yeah. And our older son is is an analyst, is very analytical and very critical, you know. And I tell few folks, to criticize is different from critiquing. You know,
Yes.
usually the intent of criticizing is to put somebody down. The opinion is this, or the critique is to analytically look at stuff and says A and B are not the same because A is formed this way because B and those kinds of stuff. You know,
Right.
so our son, has gotten into a lot of trouble with his profs. You know, because he doesn't just accept what they say at face value.
You know what I did? Our school had a rule that you always had to say in front of the class at the beginning that that there was no right answer, which was kind of strange sometimes in accounting because
Yeah.
if you didn't do it certain ways,
Ways,
sometimes
yes.
you could in the real
You
world
got
you
out of
ended up
jail.
paying-
Yes.
But they always had to say this, and then but in certain classes, you watch. But I always watched the professor, and then they would ask a question like the first day, and if somebody raised their hand, and if they gave the book answer, and the professor says, "Yeah, that's right," I knew they were lying,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Okay." Them, I'm gonna just regurgitate
Yes,
what they
yes,
tell
yes.
me,
Yeah.
But if they raised their hand and they gave the book answer,
And the prof.
and the prof said, "Wait a minute, what about this and this?" I was like, "Oh, this would be an interesting class.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
gonna enjoy this."
Yeah.
So,
Well, of course, it's not so much in the time of everything available online fast, but when I went to did my degrees the late '70s through 1988, you mainly had textbooks and printed papers,
Materials, yes.
and the textbooks very quickly were over 5 years out of date.
Yes.
As a minimum, and your journals were often a year or two behind as well, and so you
but
didn't.
our professors were real good about switching to the new ones where you had to buy the
Yeah,
new books.
yeah.
Yeah, but even so, I mean, and so that just added to you had to work harder to really research something and find out what the
Right.
current thinking
Yeah.
was.
Well,
because even the resources
yeah.
available were out of date,
Yeah.
and you didn't have a computer.
Yeah. Unless it's something classic.
Oh, we're going to talk about that something classic when we come right back.
That was good.
Hi, Peter and Doug here from The Third Chair. We're looking for a win-win situation. We want to keep these videos put up on a weekly basis, and we want to help you succeed with your business adventure.
And we've brought up as a show a lot of important issues that people are interested in, and we brought up a lot of local actors and artists and bringing them forward, which helps them as well as our audience members in finding some of these things.
So there is an email on the screen. Send us a note if you're interested in knowing about some of our sponsorship packages. Welcome back to The Third Chair. I'm Peter, that's Doug, and we're here with Dee Walker. And when we wrapped up the last segment, we had been talking about higher education and thinking and reading and critical thinking and that sort of thing. And I rudely interrupted you when you were about to make an important point.
Oh yeah. I was just
My
about,
apologies.
Yeah. No, you're right. I was just about to say when it comes to research, most universities, if not all universities, want to make sure that they get the latest textbooks. And if you're writing a paper and you are citing references, the only reference that could be maybe more than 5 years old are classics. And because most of the textbooks are changing, but again, it takes a lot of discipline. Most of the kids now, these days, because of the internet, they don't appreciate books that were written, especially literature, you know, English literature, you know, you got to go back to the Elizabethan periods and stuff like that. So I just wanted to make a quick reference to that students who are doing research or writing papers must be always cognizant of the fact that there are always new publications out there on the
Yes.
subject matter.
And just because they're new doesn't necessarily mean they're good.
Good,
They're
no,
right.
no.
Or better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you still have to
yes.
analyze the
Exactly.
reference.
You just took it from me. That's where the analysis, the ability to analyze comes in. You know, because a prof might want you to cite newer books, you know, but it doesn't mean that the newer books have more quality in substance than the older books. You know, so your ability to analyze then kicks in.
You know, there's certain biases that kick into, like for instance, in the medical field, if you do a study on a drug to see if it is helpful for a disease, if it helps the disease to treat the disease, versus if it doesn't help. If it does help treat the disease, it's more likely to get published. But just as important, if a drug doesn't work, people want to know that because they don't want to give that drug if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But that study is more likely to be put in a bookshelf and not published. And so you even have to, there's even a bias of what makes it into the literature, realizing, you know, on this topic, there may be important work that's been done that has just not been published.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Because of biases.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And bias is one phenomenon that always is present, you know, in research.
Yeah, there's so many of them. Personal biases, system biases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, even in music.
Speaking of music,
I'm speaking of music.
well, what's your bias? What's your favorite music?
You know, I mean, I think I said it earlier that I'm very eclectic, but you know, when I was growing up, I used to love reggae.
Reggae, like
Yeah.
Bob
Bob
Marley
Marley.
and the Wailers.
Marley,
Yeah. Oh,
You know?
man. Yeah, we're going to have you sing a couple of songs
I wish I could.
eventually.
Red Red Wine is one of my
He's
good songs.
And then when I got into college, my music appreciation teacher got me to appreciate classical music, you know?
yeah.
And because
So who's your favorite composer?
Beethoven, you know?
Beethoven.
And she exposed us to so many. First, it was boring.
Yeah.
And one day, one semester, one of her church members from the States, a very young girl, came on a mission trip to the college, and she put up a performance. Oh my word, we're trying to look at this little girl. Where is that sound coming from? You know? But anyway, yeah. But these days, I think it's because I've spent the last 4.5 years in Africa. There's a lot of African pop music. Yeah, a lot of African pop music. You know, they got a group of brothers they call P Square. You know, Nigerians. They do a very good job, and most of their stuff, unfortunately, some of their lyrics are mostly leaning towards sexual.
All right. Yeah.
You know?
That's
Oh,
common with so much music.
Yes, not there.
Yeah.
But when you get a very good one that talks about life and life issues, you know, and advice, you
Sure,
know, and
sure.
stuff like that, I go for it.
Nice.
Does much of the African or Liberian pop music does it make it over to the States ever?
To a certain group of people, you know. But then another. I mean, one of the ones that I love, my wife and I, on Saturdays after I've watched football, the real football.
Soccer.
We just put on very good Christian music, you know, like from Hillsong, you know, and we listen to a lot of good Christian songs just to encourage us.
Sure,
you know?
sure.
Do you watch many movies?
Yeah, I'm a Sylvester Stallone kind of guy.
Oh, yeah.
So you like the Rocky
yeah,
or
yes.
the Rambo?
Rocky,
Well, Rambo. I love the Expendables.
Oh, the Expendables.
I'm an action kind of guy.
Yeah, me too.
But again, like I said, I'm eclectic. I'll watch. One of my favorite movies was one by Russell Crowe.
The Commander.
Beautiful Mind.
Oh yes, that's a great movie.
I don't think I've seen it.
It's interesting because
I'm really behind on my movie watching.
Well,
I just saw The Quiet Man for the first time. John Wayne movie. Yeah.
John Wayne fan.
Yeah. So Rambo. How about Schwarzenegger?
Talk action. Talk action.
Yeah, the Terminator.
Yeah. I'll be back.
Yeah. I bet you said that a few times getting onto an airplane from Liberia.
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
Yeah.
So that surprises me a little bit about you, but not really. I mean, I think that
Well,
kind of fits with your. Well, people think you're a leader in the church, and my wife doesn't mind me watching them, but she just doesn't care for them. It's just not her thing.
My wife too. I mean, action movie.
She wants to put on a chick flick.
Do you like the superhero movies?
Oh yes. In fact, our sons and myself went to watch Doctor Strange just recently.
So was that good? Because I haven't seen it yet.
You know what? I don't want to spoil it. It's a good movie. I had my wife would not want to watch it because it has some of this sorcery, magic.
I find people in the church sometimes have more trouble with that. That's fine. Yeah. And what about now? Are you? Do you have time to read books?
You know what? For the last 6 months, I stopped reading any other book but the scriptures.
So nothing else.
Nothing else, because I'm writing at 2 devotionals, one on 1 Corinthians and the other on James.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and what I decided to do,
I'm more of a James fan than
I
like 1 Corinthians 13,
yes.
but James, but James I really like.
I decided not to look at any commentaries, just to look at scriptures as I see it in the English version. I'm not a Greek scholar, but just the English version, and write what I believe the word is saying, in a devotional. Yeah. I've not looked at any commentary.
Okay.
Wow. So
no books. No Harry Potter for you.
No. I used to read a lot of novels, and stuff like that. But because I'm an academic person, most of my stuff have been textbooks.
Yeah,
textbooks are well written, but I've read some textbooks as like, oh my.
Well, like right now, I'm reading. Not reading, but one of my colleagues just gave me, because I'm supposed to be teaching a course at one of the universities here. So he gave me a couple of books, and he said, Dr. D, I want you to look at these books and make some suggestions. I've not touched them yet.
Oh.
Yeah, there were 4 books he gave to me.
So, you're going to do that, after the devotions are finished?
Yes.
How long will it take you to write devotions?
It's been going on for the last 6 months, and I think I should be concluding.
Oh, okay.
This summer.
Nice.
Oh, good.
Well, I think we are down to the final segment.
When we come back.
We'll wrap it on up.
All righty.
Hi, I'm Peter from Pikes Peak Recovery Coaching, and as you know, I do help people with drug and alcohol recovery issues. I love to help people get better, but I also offer a variety of other services, including regular life coaching services. I've helped several people write and finish a book. I've helped a doctor that was in medical school graduate and then get into a residency. And I also actually have quite a background in mathematics, and I do some math tutoring for the GED as well as the ASVAB for those that are thinking about a career in the military. So my contact information is on the screen. Please send me an email or a text, and we can talk about some of these services and how I can help. That's Peter Grigg at Pikes Peak Recovery Coaching.
Welcome back to the third chair, and unfortunately this is our final segment with Dee Walker because we've been having such fun with this episode as well as last week's. So,
yeah, I've enjoyed being here.
It's been great having you.
So Dee, you were talking about the 2 devotionals. Now, do you have a publisher for those?
No, not yet. I was just writing them as a way of personal reflection, personal growth, giving some of the valley experiences that I've had, in the last 8 months and stuff. So no, I've not identified a publisher yet.
Did you plan on doing that, of like talking to an agent? And
Eventually, yeah.
Okay, more when it's finished.
Yeah.
James could be kind of tough.
Yeah.
Like you see your brother, cold or hungry, and you do nothing. Like you're a moron. Yeah. He's kind of tough at times. Yeah.
We probably gave Jesus a hard time too.
Maybe so. Yeah.
Well, at first he was right. I mean, he wasn't following him until after.
Oh yeah.
Well, is the devotion on all of 1 Corinthians or just some chapters? Portions. That'd be a pretty long devotion. I mean, James is what, like 5 chapters? Yeah. Now, were you ever a pastor?
Yes.
See, I didn't know that. We missed that. Right. You got 1 minute. Tell us about being a pastor.
Well, I was with the mission with the mission organization. I was with broadcasting. When the war happened, all the missionaries left. The missionary pastor left, and I was asked to become a pastor because I used to preach in the church once in a while. So I became the pastor for 2 years.
Would you ever be a pastor again, like in the United States?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I believe that I can, with my story, my experience and stuff. I believe that I can help a lot of guys.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Oh yes, definitely. So do you have any phone numbers or email addresses for the organizations?
Yes. My email address is dnyamieh62 at yahoo.com.
At Yahoo.
Yeah. dnyamieh62.
Nice.
Nyamie is my tribal name. So it's dnyamie62 at yahoo.com.
You're born in 1962?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, we'll put that on the screen.
Yeah.
And it's okay if people send you an email.
It's okay.
They have a question or something.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. And
last week you talked about where you work.
Yeah, the place. Yeah.
Do you want to give that address again?
Yeah, it's www.theplacecos.org.
right,
theplacecos.org.
And it's people can phone the number
Yes.
on the website.
They can find the number or something. Yeah.
Very good.
To help homeless people from
Exactly.
15 to 24 years old if you missed last week's episode.
Yeah.
Sure. Any other contact information you want to share?
No, I think that's it.
And any other last burning thoughts that you, after 10 hours of talking, that you'd like to share? Any other ideas? Anything before we
yes.
wrap up?
One of the things I want to say is, as men, leaders, we got to be bold to say you are wrong when you are wrong.
Admitting you're wrong.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
And we got to let our ego be put aside and let us be humans. We are not always right, especially to our spouses.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I just get up every morning and say, "Honey, I'm sorry." no, but you raise a really important point because it's easy to get into, well, yeah, they did this or they did that, and I've got my reasons why I shouldn't have to apologize. You can get into that kind of stuff, and you're right. We just need to suck it up and go say I was wrong.
I think it's more manly to say, I did wrong and I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I like that. That's for me. That's the progression. Not just say I'm sorry. Say I did wrong, and be specific about what you did wrong, and then you say you're sorry.
Yeah, and I like the idea of saying, will you forgive me?
Yes.
That to me that's powerful as well.
Yes.
Well, I see from the clock on the wall we have to say goodnight. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends, and hit the notification bell icon so you know when we've uploaded a new episode or new content from those of us here at the Third Chair. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave some comments below in the comment section, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
This has been the Third Chair.